All right, let's dive in. If you've ever built a great-looking profile screen in React Native only to watch it forget everything as soon as you close the app, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to upgrade a static, forgetful profile into one that's fully interactive. We're going to teach it how to remember a user's name, their bio, even their photo, using local persistence so it's perfectly restored every single time the app opens back up.
Oh man, haven't we all been there? You build this beautiful screen, you can type in the fields, you can pick an image, but the second you restart the app, poof, it's all gone. It's like your app has amnesia. It's a classic step in the learning process, but today, we're going to solve it for good.
So here's the transformation we're aiming for. On the left, you've got the before state, just a static, forgetful placeholder. But on the right, that's our goal, a truly interactive profile where all the data is saved and restored. We're basically going from a simple UI mockup to a genuinely stateful feature that actually adds real value for your users. Okay, so let's state it clearly. The problem is simple. Our profile screen doesn't remember a thing. It's just a placeholder. To make it actually useful, we need to implement local profile persistence. We need to let that user data be saved directly on the device itself. So how do we fix this? What's the game plan? Well, the architecture we're going to use involves building a central brain for our profile data. And we'll do that using React's Context API. This user context we create is going to become the single source of truth for all user information, managing how it's stored, how it's retrieved, and how it's updated anywhere in the app. Now, the core piece of tech we'll use for saving the data is called Async Store. And what's really great about it is its simplicity. It's just a basic key value store. Think of it like a little local filing cabinet on the phone, where our app can stash and retrieve bits of information like our user's profile. It is absolutely perfect for this kind of job. Our brain, this user context, it really only has three main jobs. Job number one, it needs to hold the current user state, the name, bio, and photo, in memory. Job number two, when the app first fires up, it has to go check that filing cabinet, async storage, and load any data it finds. And finally, job number three, whenever the user saves a change, it's got to write that new info right back into storage. That's it. So let's pop the hood and take a look at the code that makes this happen, starting in usercontext.js. We kick things off by importing the essential tools: uState from React to manage our data in memory, uEffect to automatically run code on startup, and of course, async storage itself, which is what's going to handle the actual saving and loading. Inside our context, we're really only juggling two key pieces of state. First, you've got the user object itself that holds the name, bio, and photo. And second, we have a little Boolean flag called loading user. Now, this flag is absolutely critical. It stops the UI from flashing an empty profile while we're still busy fetching saved data. It basically tells the rest of the app, hey, hang on a second, I'm still loading. The real magic for loading our data happens inside a useEffect hook. This hook is set up to run just one time, right when the app component's ready. Its only job is to go to async data, look for a key we've named user profile, and if it finds any saved data under that key, it loads it directly into our user state. This is what makes the profile magically reappear when you reopen the app. Okay, what about saving data? To make that super easy, we create a helper function called update user and save. And what's so cool about this function is that it uses a patch-style update. This means another component can send just the one piece of data that changed, like say only the new bio. And this function is smart enough to merge it with the existing profile before saving the whole thing back to storage. It's just incredibly efficient. Let's just pause on that for a second, because this is the key idea. The user context provider we've built has now become the single source of truth for the user's profile. Any screen, anywhere in the app that needs to know about the user or wants to update the user, it has to go through this one central hub. Okay, so we've built the brain. Now it's time for the implementation. Let's get our profile screen connected to this new user context and really bring the whole interface to life. Now, this brings us to a really important architectural choice. We're actually going to use two kinds of state. The global state, which lives in our context, that's the permanent saved truth. But for the input fields on the screen itself, we'll use local state. This creates a temporary copy just for editing, and it makes sure the UI feels incredibly fast and responsive while the user is typing. We only update that global source of truth when they actually hit save. So, inside profilescreen.js, the first thing we do is use the useContext hook. That gives us access to our global user data and that handy setUser function.
Then, right underneath that, we create separate local state variables for the name, bio, and photo. These local variables are what the text fields will be tied to directly. So how do those local fields actually get filled with the saved data? Well, you guessed it, with another useEffect hook. This one just sits there and waits for that loading user flag from our context to turn false. The second the global data is ready, this effect kicks in, copies the name, bio, and photo into our local state, and boom, the user sees their saved profile pop up in the input fields. And the final piece of the puzzle is the handle save function. This runs when the user taps the save button. It does a quick little check, make sure the name isn't empty, and then it calls the user set function from our context, passing in the new data from the local state. That's the trigger. That tells our brain to update itself and write the new profile to async storage. And that's it. All the pieces are connected, we've built the brain, we've implemented the UI. Now let's talk about the payoff and see our persistence in action. Let's just walk through that whole data flow one last time. The app opens, and our context starts loading data from storage. The UI waits, then it displays the restored profile. As the user edits, that fast local state gives them instant feedback. When they hit save, the global context gets updated, which then writes the data right back to storage for the next session. It's a perfect, complete little loop. So what are the big takeaways here? Well, async storage is our filing cabinet. React Context is our central data brain. Local state is what keeps our UI feeling snappy, and useEffect is the glue that holds it all together, automating the loading process when the app starts. Put them all together, and you've got a really robust and professional feature. And what did we really achieve from an architectural standpoint? The most important thing is this. We now have one single source of truth for all of our user data. That is a huge win. It makes our application so much more predictable, way easier to debug, and a whole lot simpler to build on in the future.
The results of all this work? Our Profile tab has been totally transformed. It's not just a placeholder anymore. It's now a useful, stateful, persistent, and fully interactive part of your application.
And that is how you give your app a memory. Now that your profile is persistent, you can use this exact same pattern for so much more. User settings, saved articles, application themes, you name it. So the real question is, what are you going to teach your app to remember next?